Hey guys, and welcome back to the Armory. And today we're actually not making some armor, believe it or not. We're actually trying to solve a problem in the armor making process, which is making something that I can actually heat the armor on when we're in the middle of making a project. One of the problems that we encounter when we're trying to get something done, heat it up and get it ready for forming, is that I have to hold that at the moment in my hand while hitting it with the torch. After about the 6th heat, that's getting quite heavy and I'm dropping, my arms breaking. Basically, we needed a solution for that problem, and the solution that I'm proposing we use is a heating table. So if we come over to the area where I actually do some of the work, you'll notice that I have a bit of a table here at the moment, which isn't going to be used for the heating table. But normally what I'm doing is I'm grabbing this torch, I'm holding the work in this hand, and I'm heating that up. And when I get tired, I'm either putting it on the anvil or on the forge. Well, that's not great. Those are not designated spots for me to be doing that. So what I need is a space that's going to go right here, so I can rest the work on it, take some of the weight off my arm, and heat it up, ready to then drop the torch and get to work straight away. Now that's another problem that we need to solve, because at the moment, what I'm having to do is light the torch every single time that I need to heat something. I'm taking the striker, I'm adjusting these valves, and I'm lighting it up every time. That wastes a lot of time. And it's also inconsistent, and when I have to turn the torch off, I'm losing heat in the workpiece, and I'm not getting to actually forming it. So what I need to use is something called a gas saver. What a gas saver is a device which cuts off the flow of gas, the propane and the oxygen, as soon as I've finished using the torch, and just uses the weight of the torch to cut the flow off. And you can see I've got that right here. Purchased this a couple weeks ago. This is gonna be a game changer when it comes to time and productivity in the workshop. Has a little flame here that I can light the torch every time I need to use it, and then just holds the torch there and enables me to get on with the job of making armor. So let's get started designing that project and see what we can come up with. All right, I think we have everything that we need for this project. We've considered all the little bits and pieces, and I've got every single perspective taken care of, so I know exactly what I need for the project. Let's go get some materials and supplies and crack on with getting this done. Let's go. We're just on the way to pick up some materials, some steel, and a few little tools that we need to finish the job. We've got our shopping list here, ooh, yes, with all our requirements and measurements. I came up with a bit of a cut list for the steel, so I know exactly how much steel to get, and a little bit extra, because it's nice to have some left over. Catch you guys in a bit. Let's grab some steel, let's go. Got to strap it down, we don't want it going anywhere. All tangled up, should have rolled it up properly. Ooh, twang. We've got our steel, let's go get the rest of our supplies. Some casters for our plasma table to roll on. These are big boys. Probably don't need big boys this big, so I'm just making a little bit of an adjustment to my plans on the job. Well, lowest prices are just the beginning. Yeah, that's correct, that's accurate. Bringing in the supplies. And we're back in the workshop. Fantastic. We've got some supplies, the steel is here. Now we can actually get on with the process of cutting it up, ready to put into our project. Let's get going. One of the reasons that we're cutting this on the ground and not on the bench is because a lot of sparks come out the back of this. Now this is sort of a safety reason because near the ground, those sparks are going to stay low and not rain over everything else that's in the workshop. Another reason is that with these long lengths in the workshop, it's much easier to chop those up on the ground than to chop them up on benches and things around the place. So we can maneuver easier and it's much safer, so it makes the job a lot better. Back to work. An important part of our heating table or plasma cutting table is the grate or grill, which forms the surface, the table surface of the project. Now, in order to get these pieces that form the grill into the actual tabletop, we need to slot this square section so that they will slip in there. In the case of cutting, eventually these thin pieces of steel will get worn out and covered in spatter and all kinds of horrible stuff like that. So we want to be able to remove those from the tabletop, and so having regular slots along here enables us to just drop in a new one when we want to replace it. And the fact that we have a open framework, just like you need for a plasma table, is great for heating as well, because the flames of the torch can just go straight on through there and not heat up a large plate of steel when we're in the process of making our armor. So to do that, we need to mark up all of our holes, drill them, and then notch this piece of RHS so we can get on with welding up our table. Okay, so while we were slotting those tubes, we came across a little bit of a problem because these don't clamp that easily into the chop saw jaws. In fact, they like to do a little something, which is roll over while I'm chopping, and that's not great, that's a little bit dangerous. So to overcome that problem, all I did was create this little jig out of some scrap steel that I had laying around, and basically that makes sure that this RHS stays clamped nice and softly against the back jaw here, and I can just clamp down on there and boom, she's nice and solid, ready for me to make that accurate cut. Okie dokie, so these are now slotted, ready for the strips to go across to form the top of our table. It's been a couple of days since we were working on it last time, but these are now ready to rock and roll with the next stage of what we're doing. And what is that? That is tacking everything together and making the top, legs, sides, bringing together the frame of our welding table. So let's get on to doing some welding. That's the top done, now for the rest of the frame. Well, everything is now put together. We have our shelving, we have our shielding all the way around the sides. Now it's time to wax and paint on this bad boy. But I know what you're thinking. Won't you burn that paint off if you're gonna heat stuff with a fiery blazing torch? We're gonna be using this heat-proof paint. Besides, we're not supposed to be pointing the torch at the paint in the first place. So, just in case any of the flames get through our grate, this paint should withstand any of the temperatures that's involved in getting this done. Painting is all done, which means we only have a few final steps to finish off this heating table. We're gonna whack on some casters, we're gonna put a extra little mod here which will hold our gas saver for the torch, and then we can just slot in the actual strips of steel that form the top of our table, and that will be our job complete. Squiddies on through here. Oops, Daisy. Okay. Oh, perfect. Let's just check before the height of the torch. How high do we want to have this thing? So 750 off 1200 is going to be 45 centimeters or 450 mil. Bloody perfect, mate. Alrighty, she's done, and she's a beauty. Looking all sexy and finished off with that paint job. Now, what do we actually do in the process? Well, we basically just assembled this from a design that we came up with. It's all put together. We have the sides, we have the tabletop. It moves around really nicely on the rollers, which is fantastic. We can get that around the workshop wherever we need it. And obviously we have the torch just hanging there on the gas saver, so we can just pick that up, line her up, and get on with heating up a project without worrying about fiddling with knobs and trying to get it to light and getting little propane explosions. Anyways, it enables us to just get on with the job of making armor without any hiccups in the process, and it's going to pay for itself 1,000 times over. This project wasn't without its fair share of challenges though. We had to tackle a few little things like these slots that enable the strips of steel to slip into the tabletop. We had to make a jig for that, we had to file them to fit, which is a little bit of a customized solution to the problem, but in the end it all worked out. Another thing was the timing of our project. It took a little bit longer than what we wanted, but in the end, she's finished, she's done, and she's looking beautiful. So let's give it a cheeky little demonstratoroo. Well, she looks like she's working a treat. Fantastic. Obviously, there's always more you can do with these kind of challenges, but we've met this problem with a solution that not only provides the function, but meets the purpose of the problem that we're trying to solve. It's gonna speed up our process, make it that much more efficient. Hopefully you guys can be inspired a little bit by some of the project that we have here and take something for the builds that you guys are doing at home. We'll see you in some more tool building challenge videos in the future. See you later, guys.